SwayamPrabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Good morning viewers, this is Dr. Ashwini Siwal and I have brought up interesting lecture on information assurance in a series called Law, Science and Technology. We have been seeing a lot of interesting lectures in this series called Law, Science and Technology on different intersections of law and science and technology. So, this particular lecture is on information assurance, and particularly in this lecture we will talk about the law in US and EU. Well, my dear viewers, in one of my lectures in this series I have discussed the law on information assurance in India, wherein just to remind you, the important aspects, wherein I covered the Digital Data Protection Act and the entire data protection ecosystem in the country, or you may say the information assurance ecosystem in the country. But here in this lecture I shall specifically cover the EU and the US law, and we will have a comparison, if the time will permit us, between the EU and the US law vis-a-vis to the Indian law. Well, the most complex issue when it comes to information assurance is its definition, and specifically defining it and then comparing it with the cyber security or information security. And at times it has been seen that people use these three terms interchangeably, or these terms interchangeably, which is not correct. So, I will throw some light on the definitional contours of information assurance initially, and then we will proceed to see the specific laws prevailing in EU and US. Well, just to give you the outline as to what I am going to cover in this 1 hour, I am going to give you the background and introduction to the concept of information assurance, and then I will going to differentiate between information assurance and cyber security, or you may say we will have the definitional contours of cyber security as well as of information assurance. Then what are the goals to be achieved through information assurance, why is it needed and what does it do, and how effectively it dispenses its role. These are few things in the agenda, and then 5 pillars of information assurance on which it basically thrives and it revolves. So, these 5 pillars we will going to discuss in great detail, and then finally impact of digital aid on information assurance, and lastly we will discuss information security management systems for data security. So, this is the general outline of the lecture. We will cover these things one by one. So, coming to the background of it, viewers, information assurance is becoming a very relevant aspect, especially in a knowledge based economies, or in knowledge based economy we are witnessing rapid growth in data transfers, inter country or intra country data transfers, and businesses are thriving on the basis of the data flow, because data is the new oil, and we all know that when something is offered as free to you, it is not free, rather it takes away your information and it takes away your data, which is a new oil for the economies. So, businesses that store and exchange critical data over information networks, right, and information networks are very vulnerable, because the processing, the storing of the data is on the information networks. So, whether the existing systems in place are supporting and are designed to implement the data 5 pillars of the data assurance or not. These are the key concerns with which I am going to start this particular lecture. And just at the outset I would like to give you the idea as to what does information assurance really mean and why it is so important. Well, information assurance has grown to be a nuanced and very essential part of information security, and implementing sound information assurance management is becoming very difficult, because networks are multiple and their locations are multiple, and there are no boundaries or no territorial constraints when it comes to networks or their operations. So, challenges are many, and there are unknown challenges which we face when it comes to information assurance on the information networks, right. So, adding to the challenge is a variety of confusing terms and misnomers, as I was mentioning at the outset, that there are a lot of confusing terms interchangeably used by the IT professionals and by even cyber security experts. So, even seasoned IT professionals can get confused between information assurance, cyber security and information security. Often these terms are used interchangeably, leading to information assurance's bad practices. So, we will clear this confusion, then we will proceed ahead by looking at the laws prevailing in different countries, because we will have a clear idea about as to what we are going to discuss and what is our subject matter today. So, coming to the definitional aspects or its introduction, as I told you that information assurance is one of the fastest growing areas of information technology. Information technology is not new, not even a century old, or for that matter a few decades old, but yet it has posed such challenges which are very difficult to answer and which are very difficult to cater to. It addresses concerns ranging from individual privacy on the one hand, and data protection in commerce, entertainment and social interaction, to national security. So, there are a lot of concerns ranging from individual privacy, data protection, then commerce, entertainment, data protection in commerce, data protection in entertainment and social interaction, to national security. So, the concerns are extending even to the national security when it comes to information assurance. And assurance in information assurance in security engineering can be understood as the degree of confidence that the security needs of a system are satisfied. So, any network information network which gives you that confidence that your data or your things which you share on the or correspondence that you do or the communications that you make, if they are secured, if they are kept secured, and this satisfaction comes only when the assurance is given, and that assurance is an information assurance here. So, more the security needs of a system are satisfied, the more the degree of confidence generated in the systems, thereby assuring the security. Information assurance is the practice of assuring information and managing risks related to the use, processing, storage and transmission of information. Well, that information assurance basically in the information network is a practice which assures the information, or and ensures that your information is not misused, is not wrongly processed, is not wrongly stored, is not wrongly transmitted. So, any such confidence if any particular platform is giving, then you must be satisfied with sharing your information, but this is something which is lacking and which sees lot of challenges, and the challenges, as I earlier mentioned, that extends up to the national security in certain cases, or data losses in the certain cases. Now, information assurance, as I told you, and I will reiterate, that is a practice of managing information, and there are a couple of steps involved to protect information system such as computer and network systems. So, this includes protection of the integrity, availability of your data, authenticity, non-repudiation and confidentiality of user data. These are some of the key concerns or key aspects which it assures, or which it ensures that your data is kept secure. No one is going to tamper with it or tweak with it, no one is going to repudiate it, and confidentiality is given to the user of a particular platform or any information network system, right. So, this information assurance in the information network plays a very critical role in mitigating the risks that may emanate from undetected loopholes in the network, which may or can lead to unauthorized access, editing, copying or deleting of valuable information. So, my dear viewers, to understand it in a simplistic manner, whenever you communicate or transact in any information system or through or with any information system or a network, your information which you share is always vulnerable or is always susceptible to tweaking, editing, copying or at times deleting. So, your information can be kept confidential, or such confidence may be given to you only when the information network system is strengthened or it is robust. Otherwise, this assurance is a mirage to you, and we have seen in the recent past that there are a lot of such leaks, data leaks, or lot of such misinformation, disinformation campaigns are going on, as well as editing, copying or deleting or even tweaking with the even intellectual property protected data of a person is being tweaked or edited or sometimes deleted. So, there are a lot of concerns which arise because of such practices or such abuses that are taking place on networks or on computers, on different network systems. So, now coming to the differentiation between information assurance and cyber security, let me tell you, to understand this we need to understand the cyber security first, and you may say that this concept of information assurance needs to be analyzed with the cyber security. So, the methodology with which I would like to explain it to you is about telling the focus of each of these fields. What is the focus of information assurance, what is the focus of cyber security, what is the scope, approach, and then what are the resources which are being protected by the different concepts here, or by the different fields. One is information assurance, another is cyber security. So, when it comes to focus of information assurance, it is on assuring the information or securing the information. Basically, it focuses on risk management and comes up with guidelines for keeping information secure, whether on a physical manner or on a digital manner. On the contrary, cyber security focuses more on setting up a resilient network architecture to secure digital assets. Well, it is a totally different field from unwarranted access. It focuses on setting up a resilient network architecture, right, and it does it because it wants to avoid the unwarranted access to the cyber networks. Scope is also different of both the fields. When we talk about information assurance, it is concerned with the business aspect of information. On the contrary, cyber security deals in the nitty-gritty of to protect everything. As a result, the scope is more detailed in the case of information assurance, because it caters to the business aspect of information, but cyber security only deals in nitty-gritty to protect everything. Then approach is also different. The information assurance is strategic, dealing with policy creation and deployment to keep information secure, and cyber security is technical, dealing with security controls and tools to defend against cyber attacks. The information assurance protects data and information systems and include both physical and digital data. Cyber security protects all digital investments, which include information infrastructures, networks and applications. So, to conclude, I will say that cyber security is a facet of information assurance, and information assurance existed much earlier than the concept of cyber security. It even predates the internet and even predates the cyber security. Internet and cyber security both fall under the umbrella of information assurance. So, the scope, focus, approach, resources protected, both are different in both the cases, and this needs to be understood by the implementers, that one is totally a different field and another has different role to play in the information management or in the information networks or on information technology communications. Then let us have a look at the differentiation between information assurance versus information security. Both sound very same or similar, but they are not similar, they are different. Information security is defined as the process of protection of information and information systems from unauthorized access or unauthorized use, disclosure, disruption, modification. Here also the approach should be to understand the differentiation by looking at the focuses, approaches, and then scope of these two fields. When it comes to focus of information assurance, as I earlier discussed, it is on quality, reliability and restoration of information. On the contrary, information security focuses on deploying security solutions, encryption, policies and procedures to secure information. When it comes to approach, this information assurance is not concerned with specific technology or tools used to protect information, rather it is centered around developing policies and standards. Information security, on the other hand, directly deals with tools and technologies used to protect information. When it comes to scope, information assurance has a broad scope, information security stresses risk control and agreement. As a result, information security has a narrow scope. So, information assurance is much wider than both the cyber security and the information security, which fall under the umbrella of information assurance, and they are minor or they are narrower terms vis-a-vis to the information assurance. In terms of focus, their scope, their approach, their resources which they protect are totally different, and once you will demarcate or delineate these differences or understand these differences carefully, you will be in a position to implement each of these things in a separate way, or you may say in a systematic way. And so is the case with law making, because unless you understand the contours of a particular field, the law making pertaining to that field becomes a Herculean or a very challenging task. But when it is compared or when it is easily understood by comparison with the other similar concepts or other similar fields, it becomes easier for lawmakers to legislate on these subjects. Otherwise, it is very difficult for the lawmakers to legislate on these subjects, and that is why these fields are seeing issues and challenges, or are confronting issues and challenges, because their definitional contours are not clear to the people, their scope, their sweep, their purpose, their focus is not clear. So, with this background, I convey, or I want to convey, or wish to convey, that the lawmakers, wherever they are making the laws for the information assurance or for information security or cyber security, they are abreast with the definitional contours, and they accordingly legislate the subject matter, so that it brings adequate law or a robust law or legal framework. Then coming to the goal of information assurance, it is multifarious, or it is manifold. The goal is to manage the risk, the goal is to encrypt, the goal is to keep the data or its integrity intact, and so on and so forth. But these goals are just inclusive, these are not exhaustive. There may be many other things which may fall into the ambit of the information assurance, which it caters to or which it serves, but the main aspect or component or the emphasis point of the information assurance is regarding the risk management and encryption, etc., so that our data, which in the globalized world, in the in the inter-country outsourcing, etc., is not compromised, or is not it does not remain susceptible to any tweaking, any editing, any deletion, etc., of even of a third party for that matter. So, risks which it mitigates, or basically goal which it serves, are, as I told you, are manifold, and it basically mandates end-to-end encryption to protect privacy. It focuses on auditing data collection and tracking process, improving transparency in the organizational process. It also enables risk assessment to identify vulnerabilities and potential impact on business in terms of compliance, cost, operational continuity, etc. Why do we need this? Well, as I told you, and it must be clear by now to all of you, that the world is basically globalized, and the businesses, the economies are these days not confined to their territorial constraints or their territorial limits. Rather, they believe in doing the trade, etc., with multiple jurisdictions at the same time, and the market is open for any companies or any of the multinational companies to start their enterprises in any of the countries or any of the jurisdictions. So in that scenario, the data of the individuals, the information pertaining to individuals on information networks must not get compromised, right, and that also serves the purpose of operational benefits. I have divided the need into two aspects. Why it is essential to adopt good information assurance practice, because it brings operational benefits as well as tactical benefits. When it comes to operational benefits, it provides resilient business processes or improves customer service. It also improves information usage. It also improves responsiveness. When it comes to tactical benefits, easy compliance, better understanding of business opportunities, commitment from business partners and customers are the key features of the information assurance, or you may say are the justifications for the information assurance. So on both fronts, the operational as well as technical front, the information assurance is very much required, and it ultimately leads to, as a corollary to confidence, which I was talking about at the initial at the initial moment in this lecture, where any information network, if gives a confidence, then it satisfies the user of using that particular network. If that confidence does not come, then it is very difficult for any user to continue on that particular platform. Moreover, for business entities, for body corporates, etc., it is very difficult to continue into the business. In fact, there have been the instances where the multinational companies have shifted their facilities or shifted their business, you may say that business stakes from particular territories because of their weak information assurance system or because of their weak information assurance ecosystem. So that is why it is needed and it is required. There are certain strategic benefits like better governance, cheaper equity, more sales, lower costs. Some organizational benefits: improved shareholder value, gain competitive advantage, and licenses to operate. And these are just inclusive or not exhaustive. There may be many more such benefits or many more goals which data protection or the information assurance strives to secure or attain. Now coming to how does it work, how it functions. When it comes to information assurance, it functions in a very strategic way, wherein some legal complexities always arise, but the nation states have developed the legal frameworks to rule out those legal complexities, or to make it very simplistic and very feasible and implementable each of those jurisdictions. The reality is that legal and reputational ramifications that ensue from a data breach affect the entire organization. A proper security framework helps protect your organization and customers. Information assurance is a work in progress that is a continuing thing. It is not something which you put in a place and you remain complacent. No, rather it is something which is continuing or ongoing, and it includes a lot of things like strategy, design, implementation, operations. So let us have a look at all these systematic ways in which it functions, or all the framework in which it works. When it comes to strategy, the information assurance basically it develop governance, and it works for the risk and compliance, and that readiness of risk compliance or governance by evaluating maturity as compared to your peers is the key feature of the information assurance. It uses cases to identify gaps and build roadmaps, rationalize and prioritize governance, risk and compliance initiatives by aligning the essential requirements of your information and infrastructure with the organizational objectives. Then this governance, risk and compliance model is also aligned with organizational policies, because there are multiple sectors where it is needed: education, health, banking, universities, institutions, everywhere we need this information mechanism, or we need this information assurance mechanism. So strategies for its implementations are devised by aligning with the domestic needs or sectoral needs of a particular sector, like for banking, health, or for education, different needs may arise, or different challenges or issues may pop up or may arise. So the strategic framework for its implementation should be in alignment with the particular sector or a particular situation, right. Then what are those 5 pillars which I was talking about when it comes to information assurance, on which it revolves or on which it strives? That is integrity, protection of information systems and assets, then availability, dependable access to information systems by authorized users, authentication, the process of restricting access and confirming the identity of users, and confidentiality, that is restriction of access to authorized users, and finally non-repudiation, which talks about forensic tracking to create a reliable paper trail of all actions. Whatever you do and whatever happens on an information network, that is non-repudiated. I mean, the trails of it can be retrieved at any point of time, or must be such which can be retrieved at any point of time. So is the case with the confidentiality, that the only authorized users should access the platforms wherein the information of users are stored or are processed. Not just any Tom, Dick and Harry should use that information. And so is the case with the authentication, that there should be a process of restricting access and confirming the identity of users. Only those users who have authentic identity, they can be allowed to use, and the access of the information systems should be available, right. It must not be something which is not available. And then finally the integrity, that the protection of information systems and assets should be the paramount, or must be the paramount thing. These pillars are basic foundations or the basic benchmarks on which the information assurance works or must work, as the developed economies where there are very advanced legal frameworks are available on information assurance. We see that they have brought or they have made their laws or frameworks or regulations keeping in consideration these 5 pillars of integrity, availability, authentication, and confidentiality and non-repudiation. And these 5 pillars are also the features of Digital Data Protection Act of 2023 in India, wherein the lawmakers have definitely kept in mind all these 5 pillars, which are the pillars of best practices followed in developed world, as well as in those countries which are pioneer nations of information assurance. Now coming to I will skip this part because it has been explained by me. I would like to now tell you what is the impact of the digital age on information assurance. As I told you that information assurance predates internet, it also predates cyber security or the concept of cyber security. But with the digital age, the information assurance has diluted. naturally, because digital age is a age where anything can be accessed on a click of a button, or you may say that anything can be seen by a click of a button, or anything can be shared to any addressee by a click of button. So, in such a scenario, the information assurance or the framework of information assurances have diluted over a period of time, and we all have been aware about the economies, or aware about the nation states who are surveilling on their people, who are compromising their information or processing it for illegitimate or illicit usages or undeclared usages, right. So, big brother is watching, and no one is having any privacy these days. The technological change that the world has seen can be compared to the industrial revolution. Three facets of digital revolution are increase in data creation. Data is the new oil. Globalized data market, where increased ability to collate and examine data with big data and data mining. Then lack of control mechanisms for digital data, and this is something most challenging, that there is lack of control mechanism for digital data. How and where it is stored, what usage of it is done and processing is done, nobody knows. So, there is no control mechanism, and legally speaking, laws prior to the new set of rules or laws in different jurisdictions, like with GDPR in EU, or with sectoral laws in US, and in India with the Digital Data Protection Act, we have at least brought some control mechanism for digital data. Otherwise, there used to be no control, or no control mechanism in place for digital data. Then we all know that newly commoditized information market is the norm of the day, and consumers are losing their control on their information, on their data, and their data or information is collected and then manipulated, and digital age affects every aspect of privacy of the consumers. It concerns with respect to integrity, availability. All 5 pillars are affected by the digital age, and all 5 pillars when get affected, then it becomes very challenging for any lawmakers to legislate on the subjects. I will show you some laws which are in place in EU and US in relation to this subject. The problem is not only the monitoring and surveillance, but the dehumanization of having one's most intimate information circulated by an indifferent and faceless infrastructure without any control over the process or content. So, this is another challenge. I mean, the anonymity, the facelessness, and the indifferent culprit, indifferent perpetrator, whose conscience does not shake, even somebody dies because of his misdeed, right, because he is not at all directly meeting the victim, or the abuser here is not directly meeting and doing any wrong, rather he is doing it online. So, this facelessness or indifferent attitude of the culprits here is leading to more and more problem, including the dehumanization, and there are a lot of things which are at risk, like financial information, public records, medical and health data, etc. Now, the privacy or the concept of privacy has undergone tremendous brainstorming in the digital age, or has changed drastically over a period of time. And in the judgment given by the Supreme Court of the country in India, that is Puttaswamy's judgment, the contours of the privacy has been widened, right, and there is nothing that does not fall. There is nothing of a human that does not fall into the concept of privacy now. So, it refers to desire of individuals to control or have some influence over their data. In the context of information assurance, the concept of privacy means that everyone wants to have a control or desire to control his or her data and his or her personal communication, right. But advances in the information technology has raised concerns about it, and privacy is no more intact or is no more safe because of the digital age or because of the advancements in the digital age. Now, coming to the international legislative or international ecosystem on information assurance, I will give you just brief idea as to from where it emanate, or what are the different resources or references which one can relate when it comes to information assurance. UDHR's article 12 is one such reference where from where one can easily understand the concept of privacy as well as information assurance. So, is the case of International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, where article 17 is is indicating the information assurance or importance of information assurance. So, this is a slide which you may refer to have a look at the international covenants and international treaties and conventions which play a critical role, or which are the founding stones for data protection as well as information assurance on information systems. Then coming to another interesting interface so far as information assurance is concerned, that is the interface of information assurance with the antitrust laws or competition laws. Some instances are here in front of you, like antitrust concern involving private data as a commercialized commodity and the fallout on competition and consumer welfare. This in turn is due to our increasing dependence on companies specializing in big data capabilities like WhatsApp. Suo motu cases have been initiated by the competition commissions as well as by the courts investigating the unilateral change in the data privacy laws changed by the WhatsApp for potential abuse of dominance, etc. And there are a lot of other abuses or dominant positions are being abused, like phone numbers and other informations of 500 million plus users of Facebook have been put on sale by hackers. Such are the issues which we see when it comes to information assurance and competition law or the antitrust law. What are the laws prevailing in EU when it comes to information assurance? So, here are some of the laws which are prevailing in EU. Unlike India, where we have only one single or omnibus legislation on data, that is Digital Data Protection Act of 2023, EU and US both have many or multiple legislations and multiple rules, or you may say regulations which govern the data protection. So, they have a very robust or very wide or all encompassing infrastructure when it comes to information assurance in EU and US. They have a Cyber Resilience Act, they have Cyber Solidarity Act, they have EU Policy on Cyber Defence, they have EU Network and Information Security Directive. Then Denmark, Greece, Sweden and Netherlands have developed their own national offensive cyber capabilities. Then European Union Agency for Cyber Security, that is called ENISA in short, provides support to EU member states, to businesses and institutions in the cyber security sector, and delivers solutions and improvements to the EU's cyber security framework. Its role is to promote and support member states, businesses and EU institutions in dealing with cyber attacks. So, EU's laws are many and multifarious and wide, and there are different the EU community, or you may say the European community through their different states has brought or developed their separate or new initiatives or offensives like cyber capabilities. Then when it comes to responsibilities of ENISA or the European Union Agency for Cyber Security, they establish a cyber security certification framework for products and services. They create and outline best practices for cyber security. They promote cyber resilience. They also work on increasing operational cooperation to help EU member states with handling cyber security incidents, and also support the coordination of the EU in cases of major cross border cyber attacks and cyber security crises. So, their agency called ENISA perhaps plays a very important and significant role, because there is nothing which has been left out into the agenda or sweep of the ENISA. It does almost every such thing which is required for maintaining the information assurance on the information networks. In EU we see that GDPR is also there, that is European General Data Protection Regulation, which was implemented or which came into effect in May 2018, and this regulation is one of the most crucial and far reaching legislative pieces for organizations operating within the EU. And any nation state which wants to do the business or trade with the EU has to necessarily comply with the GDPR, or if they want to have businesses into their respective territories, even then they are supposed to have compliance with the GDPR. And the GDPR's main tasks and obligations concern data privacy, cyber security and breach management. It aims to standardize data protection regulation in EU. It aims to protect personal data and privacy for EU citizens. It aims to simplify regulation processes for international organizations. Well, the third agenda or third feature of the GDPR, which strives to simplify regulation processes for international organizations, is very important, because post GDPR many nation states have brought changes into their domestic legislations and laws or regulations in compliance with the GDPR, because GDPR's agenda is to simplify the regulations or the processes of international community as well. Additionally, it aims to encourage controllers and processors to follow relevant protocols, implement data privacy measures, etc. GDPR applies to all institutions and organizations that handle personal data and operate within the EU and companies that deal business with the EU. Most importantly, financial institutions that handle, control and process large amounts of data are highly impacted by the GDPR regulations. So, GDPR is really a far reaching legislative piece or legislative change that EU brought in 2016, which got implemented in 2018, and post that lot of cases have come to the EU courts on the violation of GDPR, because GDPR has made things very strenuous and stringent vis-a-vis to the predecessor of GDPR, which was EU directive predominantly of 1996, right, but this 2018 development has brought good changes and has made things very comfortable and convenient. When it comes to EU, there are a lot of other things, many other things like EU cyber security strategy. At the end of 2020, in order to strengthen cyber security, the European Commission and the High Representative of Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy from the External Action Service presented and adopted a new EU security strategy of 2020. So, they have brought a new EU cyber security strategy which caters specifically to the cyber security, and as a crucial part of shaping Europe's digital future, the conclusions in the EU cyber security strategy emphasize the importance of setting key objectives for preserving an open economy, while the membering countries maintain an autonomous approach in their cyber security measures. Well, this is an interesting development where EU cyber security strategy emphasize on preserving an open economy, while the member countries may maintain autonomous approach in their cyber security measures. So, they are not compelling the member countries to have the similar measures in place, rather they are giving them the autonomy, but at the same time they preserve open economy by having some basic tenets to be followed in each economy. This new EU strategy calls for enhancing the cyberspace security of fundamental services across EU like healthcare, energetics and infrastructure, as well as the ever increasing number of devices and networks in homes and properties. The strategy consists of two straightforward legislative proposals for more efficient regulations and policies that address the need for updates of the cyber security directives for networks and the protection of critical entities. So, there are lot many developments taking place or has taken place of late in the European Union, and European Union otherwise has also been the pioneer nation in terms of bringing the information assurance laws or regulations or directives. But now in 2020 and prior to that in 2018, in the form of a GDPR as well as this cyber security strategy has been brought by the EU, and it has done lot of changes or made lot of positive changes. Then the EU Cyber Security Act which was introduced in June 2019. This act strengthens the role of ENISA by giving the agency a permanent mandate and more financial and human resources. This act unifies the EU's cyber security into a simple framework with ENISA as its main core, and it builds trust, it increases the growth of the cyber security market, it is trade across the EU. So, this Cyber Security Act is another development apart from GDPR and apart from cyber security strategy which was brought in 2020. And then EU wide cyber security certification scheme is also in place, which is crucial in maintaining high cyber security standards for information and communication technology products. The EU cyber security certification has the sole purpose of establishing and maintaining trust and security in cyber security products, and additionally it aims to lay down the procedures for EU cyber security certification schemes that cover those services and products, and it highly impacts the financial sector. So, in a nutshell I will say that EU has lot of developments vis-a-vis to India when it comes to data or when it comes to information assurance. There are there is a good emphasis or great emphasis on bringing multifarious changes as well as new initiatives like certification scheme which is EU wide cyber security certification scheme. So, with this I conclude the EU part. Now, coming to the laws in the US, when it comes to US laws, as I told you earlier that EU or US both has many or multiple ways of protecting information or assuring information. So, EU has its recent developments in the form of GDPR and cyber security strategy and cyber security act and nationwide certification scheme, but US unlike European Union has no single federal law relating to cyber security and privacy. Its several states have their own cyber security and data breach notification laws. So, here data breach notification laws are prevalent and are in vogue. The US is following laws or directives or regulations starting with US Code chapter 9815. Then Sarbanes-Oxley requires organizations to prove their cyber security credentials. Then this Sarbanes-Oxley applies only to public companies. Generally a public company is listed on a public stock exchange. It has a very tough penalties, unlike many other cyber security or privacy statutes. It has criminal penalties as well. So, in theory a CEO or CFO can be made liable for maximum fines of 1 million and 10 years imprisonment for false certification and 5 million and 20 years for a willfully false filing. So, look at the stringent measures propounded, or you may say stringent measures covered by these laws, wherein the punishment is extending up to 10 years or at times 20 years, and fine is extending up to 5 million in certain cases. So, it has tough penalties and it applies only to the public companies, not to the individuals. Then SEC regulation, which is basically protecting the privacy of consumers, the financial information and safeguards their personal information, and this SEC rule 30 is an information security regulation requiring appropriate cyber security measures, and it applies to US and foreign brokers, dealers, investment companies and investment advisors registered with the SEC. These organizations could also be subject to New York Department of Financial Services cyber security regulations. Under SEC Rule 30, organizations must adopt written policies to safeguard customer records and protect against unauthorized access. So, SOX and then SEC is the another development in the US which caters to different segments. SOX basically applies to public companies, SEC takes care of the consumers financial information and personal information. Then we have Graham-Leach-Bliley Act, that is GLBA. This act is both an information security and a privacy law. It caters to both the things, it is a information security and a privacy law. The law applies to financial institutions, but the definition is very broad and it includes banks, it also applies to insurance companies, security firms, non-bank mortgage lenders, auto dealers and tax preparers, etc. This is a there is a security rule and a privacy rule under this law. The security rule requires organizations to develop, implement and maintain a comprehensive information security program that is written in one or more readily accessible parts and contains administrative, technical and physical safeguards that are appropriate to your size and complexity, the nature and scope of your activities and the sensitivity of any customer information at issue. It also has penalties and enforcement, like penalties for violation could exceed to $1 million. There is also the possibility of termination of FDIC insurance, which could mean the end of the business for a financial firm. So, Graham-Leach-Bliley is very draconian, or you may say very stringent law, because it may lead to even termination of the business or extinction of a business entity from the market, because it ends the business, because the termination of FDIC insurance of a particular entity takes place if they violate any of the rules or security rules set by this law. Then FTC, that is Federal Trade Commission Act, it has certain sections on information security and privacy law. This law applies to almost every organization in the US except for banks and common carriers. It applies to all organizations, and it is not a law which does not impose liabilities. It has liabilities, and in recent case concerning Facebook, it has imposed 5 billion penalty. It might seem odd that a law passed in 1940 to prohibit unfair or deceptive acts is one of the major sources of cyber security and privacy law in the US, right. Then for different sectors, like for health sector, they have HIPAA. It has security, privacy and breach notification rules. It applies to healthcare providers, health plans, health care, and in some instances business associates of these businesses are called covered entities. And this act can cover organizations as diverse as health insurance companies and pharmaceutical companies as well. And there are penalties and enforcement measures provided in this act. Fines are also imposed. The largest fine to date was more than 16 million, and penalties have been increasingly dramatically recently. In 2018, the total number of penalties reached a record 28 million under this law called HIPAA, which has to cater to health insurance portability and accountability, or you may say which has basically to cater to health care as well as other healthcare providers and health insurance companies, etc., and pharmaceutical companies as well. Then there is another law that targets the or specifically addresses the children's online behavior or their privacy. This COPPA is a privacy and cyber security law. It applies to websites and online services that are directed at children under the age of 13. It also applies if the site has actual knowledge that children under the age of 13 are using a website. The Act's purpose is to regulate how these websites collect, use and disclose personal information from and about children, and this act is enforced by the FTC. Fines have been increasing, with the largest penalty to date reaching 5.7 million. So, we see that in US and in EU, the information assurance is taken very seriously, and in both the jurisdictions multiple laws and frameworks are there in place to cater to this. Specifically in US, if you see, they have no singular federal law, rather they have state specific laws as well as sectoral laws or sector specific laws like COPA for children, HIPAA for healthcare providers, and pehle or prior to that we saw SOX and SEC for different segments. Then we have ECPA and SCA, Electronic Communication Privacy Act and Stored Communications Act. This Electronic Communications Privacy Act and the Stored Communications Act, also known as the Wiretap Act, Privacy Statute, it originally is designed to limit warrantless surveillance. These acts forbid the intentional use, disclosure or access to any wire, oral or electronic communication without authorization. In India, we also have some laws in place which come or which come handy or which may be attracted in the case of phone taping or wire taping, but they have Electronic Communications Privacy Act and Stored Communication Act, and the act provide criminal penalties that could be used to jail malicious hackers. They also provide a private right of action against the malicious hackers. So these laws are also very interesting because they cater to wiretap or privacy of the people while communicating orally, electronically or through wires. Then Privacy Act of 1974, this applies only to agencies of the US federal government. This is one law which applies only to the federal government or agencies of the federal government. It governs the collection, maintenance, use and dissemination of personally identifiable information about individuals maintained in systems of records by federal agencies. It prohibits the disclosure of information from a system of record controlled by federal agency, and it covers persons including lawful residents of the US and citizens of certain foreign countries designated by US Secretary of State. It may sue in a US federal district court for actual damages or $1,000, whichever is greater, attorney fee and court costs. The court may also require the federal agency to amend or correct any information on file concerning the covered person. But the main feature of this law, or that is Privacy Act of 1974, is that it covers only the agencies of the US federal government, and it covers it in the respective states. Basically, even US citizens are very much in the purview of this law, including any foreign national who has been designated by the US Secretary of the State. Then there is a Consumer Privacy Protection Act of 2017, which has been designed to ensure the privacy and security of sensitive personal information. It applies to organizations that collect, use, access, transmit, store or dispose of sensitive personal identifiable information. So it applies to basically on those organizations which collect this kind of information, that is sensitive personally identifiable information, and it also penalizes people with fines exceeding 5 million, and unless the violation is found to be willful or intentional, in which an additional 5 million can be imposed. So there are various laws in place in both the jurisdictions, that is EU and US, and they are much ahead in terms of guaranteeing the information assurance in different sectors and in different fields. In fact, the EU's approach, according to me, is more all encompassing and more wide, because US caters only in the respective states, because there is only one instance of only one federal law in the US. Otherwise they have state specific laws which are not applicable to other states. So in that scenario, EU's model seems more clinching, and it is more cohesive in nature vis-a-vis to the US's model. And when it comes to India, I will tell you that in Indian context we have the Digital Data Protection Act of last year only, or passed in the last year only, it is yet to see its challenges and issues and litigation, if any, will arise, but I am pretty sure that this law will serve a great purpose in the ensuing time, because there was no law prior to that, and we were managing with some some basic rules and regulations, or through the IT law, or through some directives, but we were not having specific legislation prior to the Digital Data Protection Act. And you may refer to one of my lectures in this series focusing on information assurance law in India, wherein I have emphasized and collated and categorized or classified the Digital Data Protection Act's main features, its sweep, its applicability, its scope, purpose, etc. So, please refer to that lecture to understand more on the Indian side, but as far as the US and EU is concerned, we just show briefly and cursorily the laws prevailing over there, and they are in ecosystem pertaining to information assurance. So, thank you very much viewers for listening patiently. With this I conclude today's lecture. We will meet again with a few more interesting lectures in this series called Law, Science and Technology. Thank you.